All right, just coming live for a few minutes after the second and final debate between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. And my goodness, a lot certainly happened tonight. As usual, Trump lied and made stuff up. Biden misstated a few things there, but it was certainly not in comparison to what Donald Trump did. He was sort of just spouting off one conspiracy theory after another. Biden did have a couple of moments where he did misstate the facts, and you could even say that he lied about some certain things, but it was certainly nothing in comparison to what we saw from Donald Trump tonight. The mute button seemed to work quite well for the first few minutes, and then things just seemed to revert back to the norm, revert back to the mean in terms of just Trump's debating, because that's just who he fundamentally is. There was a particularly low moment tonight, though, when Trump said that, those, in criticizing Obama's catch and release policy, he said, those who show up for their immigration hearings are have the lowest IQ, and I do have to say that was unnecessary. I'm someone with autism that I mean, so I guess there's just no need to go after people for that. For a disability or for their intelligence. Also, Biden himself has a stutter. I have a friend who has a stutter. Just not necessary. And I honestly wish that he wouldn't have done that. One thing I'm wondering is whether Biden may have inadvertently harmed himself in just a couple moments. He said, he didn't get criminal justice reform done because, quote, there was a Republican Congress, as if that's an excuse to not get things done. It's, if you're the president, it's your job to work with whoever is in control of Congress. And also, he said that we need to transition from oil. Now, I know what he meant by that. We do eventually need to transition to renewable energy. The question is, will the Trump campaign be able to spend the next 12 days spinning that in his favor, and basically in places like Pennsylvania and Ohio, basically saying Biden wants to kill the oil industry? Will that bring people home to his side? Would that bring Ohio and Pennsylvania into his column? And you have to keep in mind, the polling has been looking quite good for Biden nationally, but in the swing states it's looking stable. It's barely budged. So I'm wondering if the slightest blunder could tip the swing states to Trump, particularly Pennsylvania and Ohio, because based on my calculation, Trump could potentially win with Ohio, Florida, Georgia, and North Carolina. He does not need Arizona. He does not need Minnesota, and he does not need Wisconsin. He could win potentially with Michigan. He could, and in Pennsylvania, and Ohio and Iowa, and or he could potentially win with this combination: Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Iowa, and Wisconsin. And he also he could also potentially win with Nebraska's second. There's a number of combinations that that could see Biden winning Arizona, winning Wisconsin, and winning Minnesota, and it's still not mattering. And so I think that the swing states are really where the ball game is being played. And so I think it's just really useful to keep our eyes on that. It is possible that if Biden flips Arizona, flips Michigan, and just those, if assuming that he flips Arizona and he flips, I believe, Michigan. I'm honestly confused about what exactly the state combination is, but the combination I'm trying to think of has a 269 combination. But I'm spacing on what the exact combination is. But there's the point is that I'm trying to make is that what I've been noticing over the past several weeks is polling showing Biden narrowing the gap in states that he's not going to win, and narrowing the gap in places like Texas and potentially Georgia where he might end up just short. But and also expanding his lead potentially in states like California, New York, and states that he's guaranteed to win. What we're not seeing is really movement in these battleground states that are going to decide this election. And so, that is probably Biden's biggest issue right now, is that the potential widening gap between the electoral college and the popular vote, because this is actually a dynamic that at one point benefited Democrats, particularly in 2012 when the tipping point state in 2012 was 1.5% more Democratic than the nation as a whole. In 2004, it was actually, I believe, 0.6% more Democratic than the nation as a whole. That median vote was in Ohio in 2004, and that was actually that year to the left of the nation. So, I guess with the high-profile exceptions of 2000 and 2016, the electoral college has benefited Democrats, but Trump has managed to basically turn that on its head. And the worry I think that a lot of Democrats have is that is that Biden is able to close the gap in those is that Trump is able to close the gap in those battleground states, even as basically the rest of the country, swings to Biden, but just not enough for Biden to be able to flip any of those states. And Biden could win 5-10 points, maybe. That's probably not an exaggeration, but 5 points and still lose the electoral college, because that's where the contest is being played. And so the next 12 days are certainly going to be really exciting to watch. It was actually tomorrow, at this point, 4 years ago, tomorrow was when when James Comey reopened the investigation into Hillary Clinton's emails. And so the point I'm trying to make is, as excited as Democrats are seeing by these numbers, they shouldn't get complacent. There is still time. There is still time for Trump to close the gap. There's 12 days left, and as we saw, Trump was able to close the gap that Hillary Clinton had. Biden's gap has been much more stable, but this is crunch time. If Trump is going to pull this out, we're going to see it over the next 12 days. And so don't be complacent. If you haven't voted already, make a plan to do so. And just I'm sort of biting my nails right now, metaphorically, just because anything can still happen. The Trump winning cannot yet be ruled out, really, until the polls close. And while Biden is unquestionably the favorite, it is too soon to be able to count Trump out. He can still win, and it's unlikely, but it could happen. And so, I'm sort of a broken record at this point. Vote. Anything can happen. Anyway, I think that's basically the crux of what I wanted to get to. And actually, one more thing. This is actually something I was talking about with a couple friends. It's the potential for Trump to overperform in a specific type of community, and that is college towns. The idea being that, like, places like Marquette, Michigan, or Ames, Iowa, or I guess this is a bit more Republican, but Binghamton, New York, or potentially Eugene, Oregon. These places are made democratic by the presence of a university. And so if a large percentage of students are not on campus and are voting from their homes, could that mean that Trump does better in these areas? Because what we're seeing is almost across the board swings to Biden, across most demographics, probably with the notable exception of Latinos. But again, we'll see how that ends up turning out, particularly in Florida. But it's interesting to see that of this particular type of community of Trump being able to do better in because several of the people who are usually there are not there anymore. So anyway, there's just something to think about, and I think it's going to be fascinating to watch. Anyway, I'm just keeping it short because it is late at night, and I'm going to be probably going to bed soon, and hopefully don't want to wake anyone up. But just all the best to those who are working on campaigns the next 12 days. I know this is going to be tough. This is really when the election gets decided. And just everyone, make a plan to vote, and all the best over the next few days. I'm certainly excited for election night and seeing what ends up happening and whether or not we're able to call a winner that night.